Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It is that time of the year. It is time for the annual Inside the Birds NFL first round mock draft. Geoff Mosher here, Adam Caplan with me, of course. And as we have every year, Andrew DiCecco from InsideTheBirds.com joins us. What is this, year three? Third annual ITB NFL first round mock draft, right?
I think this is 4, right?
Is it 4? It might be 4. It might be 4.
I'm scared to see how well we did the other years.
yeah, or how well we didn't do. No, we're good. This is how we do it for those who are new to Inside the Birds. Adam, Andrew, we all have as much intel as we can gather on these teams. We go through it. We have someone decide each pick, but we sort of brainstorm it as a committee first before whoever's set to the side decides the pick. And so that's how it's going to go. Obviously, we know the first round of the NFL draft will be Thursday night, round 2 and 3. On Friday and Saturday, we'll finish with the marathon. That's Andrew DiCecco's favorite day of the year as we get into the later days of the draft. For our programming, we will have a pre-draft first round show from 6 to 7:30 Thursday night. Adam, myself, Greg Cosell. Friday also, we will have coverage of second and third round after. And then on the Inside the Birds platforms, we'll be doing live streams, by the way, on Thursday night after each pick also with Greg Cosell. Friday, we'll have our coverage, live streams after both picks. And then Saturday, we'll just do one final recap show. We're not going to do a Zoom after every single pick, or a live stream, after every single pick. Even though right now, as we sit here today, fellas, the Eagles only have 2 picks on that day, but that's liable to change. So it'll be a great week of coverage on Inside the Birds. Andrew DiCecco will have stories on InsideTheBirds.com as well. So from podcast to YouTube to website, we got you covered. Greg Cosell might even get Jason Avant in here too if wide receiver or defensive back becomes something that we want to talk about with Jason. Gonna have to give him a call and see what's going on there. Nice. You guys excited?
That'd be awesome. Yeah,
man.
Yeah, all right. This is just to repeat. We've said this many times. This is not an elite draft. But it doesn't mean there are not a lot of good players. There are. It's just you have to find them. And that's the exercise of doing this. We're going to probably uncover some stuff because we have a lot of intel on how the team see their team needs. It might not be what fans think sometimes because the best general managers do it for the future, not so much this year. And that's kind of the way you should look at it.
Absolutely. All right. So real quick, we want to say thank you to our newest subscriber on Patreon. His name is Rich M. Want to send a shout out to him. Really appreciate it. He, like everybody else, can be a part of our Tuesday night Ask ITB live stream that Adam and I will be doing. I know we've been saying 8 o'clock. I think it's going to be closer to 8:30. I'll put up a notification on the Patreon channel this week about it when it specifically is, along with a Zoom link. And we're excited to take all your questions. I'm expecting a big turnout for that live stream. As Adam has said, we'll probably go an hour if that's what it takes, but we will try to get all the answers to your questions in. And Adam, will you still do Wednesday night at 8 o'clock on Discord this week?
No, we're going to do it at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. My fault.
Yeah, this week will be 7. See, probably one of the few times I'm tied up from 8 to 9. So yeah, we're going to do it at 7 o'clock. And yeah, man, I'm interested to see what people think they should do because we know there's a Bijan Robinson people. We get it. We know that's highly unlikely to happen. Never say never though. But I'm very interested to see what our Patreon subscribers, who they want. I'm curious. Are they on an offensive lineman, defensive lineman? Do they want a corner for the future? We shall see.
Yeah, we are going to get our finger on the pulse of the people this week through Patreon. So really excited about that. All right. Remember, Inside the Birds is brought to you by Ocean Casino Resort. It's the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. If you get a chance, also please subscribe to the Powder Blue podcast. That's a Phillies podcast that I do with Phillies insider Frank Close. We are doing weekly Phillies podcasts. It's called the Powder Blue podcast. It's on every major podcast platform. Had a little issue with Apple this week. I think we got that settled. So hopefully it'll resettle. But if you can't find it on Apple, it's on Spotify, it's on Anchor, and we should have that Apple issue resolved and be up and running. All right. Before we get into it, we really do want to mention some of the hard news from the week, and that's the Eagles finally. And Adam joked to me, and I think he's right about this. This has to be a record for the latest announcing of a finalized coaching staff in the history of the NFL, as the Eagles finally announced all of their new promotions and additions to their staff. And obviously the big one is Matt Patricia, who, it's weird because it was on the website that the team had brought him in, and then all of a sudden it was not on the website. Then they got asked about it in the press conference, and the team was like, well, yeah, we're trending in that direction. Adam, I guess they were trending so much in that direction they had a story ready to go.
Is that right?
The website.
Yeah, he the way I've heard it, he's been spotted in Philly. A couple of people actually saw them and told me.
Yeah. He's not someone who is easily mistakable. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. How do you miss? Now, I don't know if he still has a thick beard. He's a pretty heavy guy, but he is a guy that we had first noted back at the combine that they had two names on the list for the senior defensive assistant. That's supposed to be the job title once his contract is done, and he was on their lists. And I don't know why it took so long. I believe, just talking to people who know him, he was looking at potentially going back to the Patriots, and then Belichick said he didn't know about that. Like he had been asked about it. Belichick doesn't give a lot of information out, but he said he might not be coming back. There was a dalliance with the Broncos, but here they are, a former head coach and a longtime defense coordinator.
I appreciate your use of the word dalliance there. That's a nice job by you. The important news, really, and it's serious. I think some people thought it was sort of a side plot, but it is a serious thing that Nick Sirianni admitted he talked to Darius Slay about it. I mean, Slay and Patricia, at least from Slay's side, there was a fraction there. I mean, Slay did not like him and felt he was disrespected often by him. And so Nick Sirianni said he talked to Slay and he expects a good working relationship going forward. But that, that's a real thing. Sometimes people say, it's just a coach and a player, it shouldn't matter. But I mean, when you have a player, right, Andrew, of Slay's prominence, and a coach who had a track record of not just with his player, but even the Detroit media while he was there. I mean, Matt Patricia was a guy who was seemingly hard to get along with or did not treat people the right way.
Yeah, it does matter, Geoff. And, if there's anything that Nick Sirianni has that we've learned from him, it's that he really does value what his players think, and he has that emotional intelligence. So I don't think a move was made, certainly not without, consulting with Slay. So I think everything, you hope everything is all good there.
Right. Great point. So on offense, not much of a change. Obviously, Kevin Patullo, who was the pass game coordinator, just got associate head coach added to his title. A way, as we always say on Inside the Birds, to give somebody a pay bump, some more respect. You just change your title. But even Nick Sirianni said he's basically going to be doing the same thing, which is being his right-hand man. It's just sort of interesting because they have an assistant head coach in running backs coach Jamal Singleton, and now they have an associate head coach, which again just goes to show you what titles are for.
So I think part of this promotion or new title is because he's heavily involved in game planning, I'm told. He was super important from what we're told on Steichen, getting him prepared each week with their game plan. So this is a way to reward him for it. Not just a pass game coordinator. It's just helping put the offensive game plan together. So yeah, right. Good for him. And definitely he's a guy that's well respected around the league. So this is and by the way, there were some people thought that speaking of Steichen, that Steichen might take him over with him. So this may have had something to do with it. Who knows?
There you go. Tyler Yelk is now the assistant to the head coach. And if you're asking what that is, it's like basically, Brett Veach was the assistant to the head coach for Andy Reid long time ago. And now he's a 2-time Super Bowl champion general manager. So it may sound like something insignificant now, but it's a very important job. And that's how you sort of start cutting your teeth in the scouting or personnel department or even coaching by being the assistant to the head coach.
No doubt that I would not ignore that job. It could, as you said, he could wind up being a GM. And by the way, it's really interesting. They've got at least 3 coaches that they've added that have ties to Temple.
Yeah, how about that? That's right. 4. So Yelk was at Temple, right?
At one point, yeah.
So Yelk, Sean Desai,
Elliott.
What's the linebackers coaching at Elliott? Yeah, DJ Elliott and Taver Johnson, right?
Yep, that's 4. It's crazy.
About that, amazing. All right, so that's a good segue to the defense. DK McDonald, who was the assistant DB's coach, he is now the DB's coach. And as we mentioned, Taver Johnson was announced as the assistant defensive backs coach. Tyler Scudder goes from defensive assistant to assistant linebackers coach, which I don't think they had last year, right? They just had Nick Rallis as the linebackers coach. I'm not sure. I can't remember if they had an assistant.
Yeah, I don't remember that. Yeah, in fact,
I don't think so.
That's what Rawls's job was with the Vikings.
With the Vikings? Yeah.
So no, this is a guy this is a fact. I think this is his second promotion for Tyler Scudder.
Right. Ronell Williams, as we mentioned, or Ronell Williams is now the nickel backs coach. That's been finalized. So the Eagles have 3 defensive backs coaches between McDonald, Tabor Johnson, and Ronell Williams. And Mike D'Angelo added as a defensive quality control. What do you know about Mike D'Angelo, Adam?
Yeah, he actually coached for Nick Sirianni's brother, who's the head coach at William and Jefferson for 6 seasons. So he's coached offense, a little bit of defense, and here's a defensive quality control job because Joe Casper, didn't he have that job? Didn't he have that job?
Yes, that was the Joe Casper job, right?
Right. So he's the DB's coach now in Miami. And yeah, that's right. Because we said, boy, they haven't filled out this defensive quality control job. There it is.
Yeah. Well, given that how much Nick Sirianni talked about his brother, it wouldn't surprise me if Mike D'Angelo was like the defensive coordinator, but in 2 years from now. So I kid, I joke. All right, good stuff there. Let's get into what everybody's waiting for, our first round mock draft. We start, of course, with the Carolina Panthers. They are first up on the clock. Adam, what do the Panthers need besides a quarterback? Just curious.
They could use someone opposite Brian Burns as a pass rusher. Their depth for the receiver is not great. They could use help there. And Dante Jackson, one of their starting quarters, tore his Achilles last year, so they could use another corner. But it's, as you said, it's obviously going to start a quarterback and end there. And it would be funny. It would actually be comical if they don't draft Bryce Young. It would be the biggest ruse in like NFL history. It'd be comical. But
it's funny you say that though, because there was sort of, I feel like a month ago, the buzz was when they made the trade that they had some love affair with CJ Stroud. But I never really bought into that. I thought Bryce Young would be the first pick the whole time. And, it sounds like he should be.
The only issue there was Bryce Young's body type. But as I had heard, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, they're okay with it. And that to me, guys, and Andrew, you know this as you're scouting and watching tape. If you watch Bryce Young, you have one issue with him. It's his body frame. That's it. Everything else is phenomenal.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. He's a plug and play guy. You just worry about the size.
Right. All right. Nobody wants to argue with this pick, correct?
No.
Panthers, Bryce Young.
We'll argue it too, because who the heck knows?
Yeah, man. It's especially with some of this last 24-hour speculation that the Texans are going to move out and someone's trading up and Will Levis might be the number 2.
I don't know.
I know. I'm just adding it out there, saying that's what's going on.
So a friend of mine asked me, who I work with, one of my 90 jobs I have, and he goes, what do you make of this Levis stuff? I'm like, he didn't have a good year. I look at it this way, right? This GM, Nick Caserio, last year he went for scheme instead of best player available. He took Stingley. He took Stingley the corner, right? He took Stingley the corner over the best player, Sauce Gardner, and that was a mistake. Now, Stingley may wind up being a pretty good player. We'll see, but Sauce Gardner was the best player. So with these GMs, you never really know what they're thinking. You think you might, you get intel, but you don't know for sure. And by the way, they have a ton of needs: quarterback, DN, D tackle, corner, receiver, guard, linebacker. I mean, hello.
Right. But they need a quarterback, so it's hard for us. Now they do have a pick in what is it?
12 overall.
So they have the 12th overall pick, and it's possible they might feel they can get a quarterback there if they want to be cunning here. I just don't. I don't see it. I don't think it's a smart move. I would hope that Nick Caserio does not, for 2 years in a row, sort of overthink it or go left when everybody thinks you should go right and you really should go right. So I'll let Andrew make the pick, though. Who is the pick going to be here?
I'm going to go Will Anderson and give D'Amico Ryans and defensive coordinator Matt Burke a defensive player to start the regime off.
All
in
right,
the wide 9, by the way. They're one in their wide 9.
That's right. All right. Let me ask you then, Andrew. I didn't think you were going to say that, so that's what I like about this draft. Where's Houston going for quarterback?
Well, I mean, you have to think about this, Geoff. What do they have right now to surround the young quarterback with talent-wise, right? I mean, they're not set up to win anything right now. So I think that you're drafting a quarterback at 2 really would stunt their growth. There's not a ton of, you have Nico Collins is there. I mean, there's just not a lot of optionality there for a quarterback to succeed. So I think right now it behooves them to sort of build up the defense. And you have a defensive-minded head coach, I presume. So I think that fit would make sense.
Okay. And like we said, they have a pick at 12. So they could literally make this pick here and then trade 12th and another pick to move up maybe into the top 10 to get a quarterback that they might like if they feel it goes that way. Because as we go on to pick number 3, I don't think the Arizona Cardinals are going to take a quarterback.
No.
They may need one, but they're not going to take one in this draft. So, Adam, what are their needs?
If you name it, they're another team, bad team. guard, center, right tackle, wide receiver, D tackle, corner, outside. Now, see, again, they're running a 34. So pass rusher, I'd move a little bit farther up in their on their needs board, but they can't go for an offensive lineman here. There's just no the need doesn't fit the value, doesn't fit it. They're one way or the other. DeAndre Hopkins is unlikely to be with the team this season, so they'll need a receiver. They have no D tackles of note. Corner, they're shaky. They lost Byron Murphy, and they need stand-up pass rushers. So, they got a lot of work to do.
All right, so let's see. We don't know. We don't have a draft history for Monty Ossenfort. That's the issue that I have here. I don't know what his tendencies are. I don't know where he's leaning here. I'd love to predict a trade down because it's hard to think that CJ Stroud just going to hang around here with all these teams needing a quarterback. But for the purposes of this, which is just sort of to meet scheme and team and need, I'm sort of torn here between Jalen Carter and the cornerback, Christian Gonzalez. And I'll tell you why I say that, because Jonathan Gannon is a defensive backs man. He comes from a defensive backs background, and that team really badly needs a cornerback. And if they're not going to take a quarterback here, and if they don't take an interior pass rusher, I don't think they're going offensive line, although you could make an argument that that's a really huge need. But are you going to take Peter Skronsky here? I just don't think so. You're going to try to get the best player.
No Tyree Wilson.
What I'm wrestling with
Actually, I would go with Wilson here.
Hey, I will go Tyree Wilson.
That's what I was going to go. I was wrestling with. Do they go with an exterior rusher and Tyree Wilson, or do they kind of go corner? But I will go Tyree Wilson here.
Now he's better
because he might be the best edge rusher in the draft. Andrew, I know you are high on Wilson, on the Alabama kid that you just picked number 2, but a lot of personnel people I talked to, and I think Adam and Greg Cosell have heard the same, that Tyree Wilson is a guy that a lot of teams really, their tape, they really like. So I will then, knowing that what they need, say Tyree Wilson, edge, will go to the Arizona Cardinals here.
One thing before we move on, we had this note that Gannon had told people with the Eagles when he first got the job, just get me a pass rush. We will be okay on the back end.
That's right.
He's probably referring to Steven Nelson in the back end. But honestly, that's what someone told me who knows him. And that goes on the point at what Andrew made about Tyree Wilson. I love the pick here. I mean, now, so a nickel will play with his hand down. We'll stand him up. I know you'd rather him play with his hand down, but it doesn't matter. He's a pass rusher. He's an edge rusher. Figure it out. And they will. And that they need a chess piece. After the Isaiah Simmons pick, he doesn't seem to have a home for a position. And the Collins kid, the Collins kid's a pretty good player, the middle linebacker.
Yeah.
But they need pass rushers.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think I mentioned this in the podcast once before we move on. I asked a couple of personnel people, just who's your favorite guy to watch on tape? He doesn't have to be the best guy, but just somebody whose tape you just really enjoyed watching. And more than 2 people gave me Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech. He's just a fun player and a really good player. Probably maybe the safest. I don't know. Will Anderson is probably going to be pretty good. I mean, he may not be great because I know Greg Cosell questioned some of his bend and his edginess, but he's still probably going to be pretty good. But it feels like Tyree Wilson is a guy that excites personnel people just as much, if not more. So Tyree Wilson, number 3 to the Cardinals. Now, if this happens, this is a dream scenario for the Indianapolis Colts because they need a quarterback among some other needs, and they didn't have to move up to go get one after Bryce Young went off the board at number 1 overall. But Adam, tell us what else the Colts might need if not a quarterback.
A corner, on the outside corners, they need them in the worst way. He'd use another DN, another receiver, a right guard. But to me, if Chris Ballard passes on CJ Stroud, there's something wrong.
I agree.
I don't know. He didn't want to shoot it down. He was going to talk about Will Levis. Apparently, this happens in every year for the draft. You hear these rumors come out. Oh, they're in love with this guy. They're in love with that guy. And as he said, it didn't come from me. And he didn't want to go and say, we're not drafting Will Levis. I'd be shocked if he draft Levis over him, over Stroud.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't you guys think it's the ultimate overthink if he would do something like that?
It would feel like they felt they knew something that nobody else knew.
Or Anthony Richardson or CJ Stroud. That could
I would agree.
That could be a conversation.
I mean, honestly, for a team though, Andrew, I get what you're saying. For a team that has 5 straight years, had 5 different starting quarterbacks, it feels like, I hate to say play it safe. You should never play it safe. You should go with your evaluation. But I would have a hard time thinking that the evaluation says CJ Stroud's not the best quarterback left here. When you look at the whole package now,
Sure.
Now, look, Ballard's a little old school, and he will not old school. This is a common theme. It's not about today or tomorrow. It's about 3 years down the road. And if Ballard really felt that Anthony Richardson, or Levis for that matter, was going to be the best quarterback of this draft, I could possibly understand it. But again, when a team has missed on quarterback so much, and you have a guy who is as experienced as CJ Stroud is, and he's a good quarterback who's deserving of being a top 5 pick, to me, that's the money pick for them.
I'm on it.
Right there. All right, next pick as we move on and this should be a fascinating one. The Seattle Seahawks picking 5th overall. Adam, what do the Seahawks need?
Okay, so they can't line up today. They don't have any D tackles. Poona Ford is a free agent. Greg Cosell told us his tape wasn't great. They cut Al Woods, so they need D tackles in the worst way. They need a center. And remember, they're running a 34 now, so they could use another outside linebacker. Yeah, that's definitely one of the positions. Inside linebacker and wide receiver for the future. Yeah. So D tackle is a major need. And this is where the Jalen Carter.
Yeah. This is an easy one for me, Adam. They added Draymond Jones in free agency, but I think they're going to add to that by getting Jalen Carter here at 5. Tremendous value. That's a no-brainer pick for me.
As we got here, I didn't, to this point, I didn't see any other option for them other than Jalen Carter. Yep. So the forecasted tumble is not going to happen according to this mock draft. All right, just to recap the draft so far. The Panthers at 1 take Bryce Young, the quarterback from Bama. The Houston Texans at 2 take Will Anderson, the DN from Alabama. Cardinals take Tyree Wilson, the edge rusher from Texas Tech, 3rd overall. 4th overall, the Colts take CJ Stroud, the quarterback from Ohio State. And 5th, the Seattle Seahawks take Jalen Carter, defensive tackle from Georgia. That moves us to 6, where the Detroit Lions will be making a pick. They get it from the LA Rams. It's still involved in that Matthew Stafford trade from 2 years ago. And the Lions reeling a little bit because they'll be missing Jamison Williams for 6 games next year, and had to cut ties with a couple players for a gambling scandal here. So, Adam, what are their needs?
This is a pretty easy one. D tackle on corner and tight end are their top needs. They can use another pass rusher. Charles Harris is on a 1-year deal on safety. To me, with Carter off the board, and again, we should mention before we go to the Detroit here very quickly, the Seahawks have a history of adding players with major questions off the field. You might remember Frank Clark's issues.
Yeah.
And they took a lot of heat for it, and they got over it. Typically, this stuff, it becomes an issue. The media is all over the player for a couple of days, and then it just goes away. So they have a history of doing this. So, yeah, that's why I see Carter. Now, here, to me, based on who's on the board, there's no D tackle, no 10 in this early. It's a corner. It's the best corner for the draft, whoever you want to take. To me, it's Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, Gonzalez was sort of on my list as a guy that some teams see as the best corner in the draft. I have some question marks knowing what the coach likes in players as far as being physically aggressive, mentally aggressive, and marrying that with what we've heard about Christian Gonzalez a little bit. So I'm wrestling that, but I really don't think there's a position unless they get surprising and maybe try to get a safety in Brian Branch this high. I mean, we've been. Hey, listen, how many times have we said in the top 10 a guy got picked? I'm like, wow, we didn't see it happening.
Well, John Ross would be the one. John Ross is the one which I literally fell over. I mean, I had people close to him tell me they thought he was going the 2nd round. He went, what was it, like 10th overall, maybe by the Bengals?
9th or something.
Okay, yeah. It's just the problem with Branch is, let's just talk about it for like 20 seconds here. It's hard to justify taking this high if you look at his time speed. 4.58 is incredibly slow. Now, I believe he plays faster from what we've been told, but it's a hard sell. A, to take a safety that high, and B, based on his 40 time. I'm so fascinated, guys, where Brian Branch goes, because he's going to go in the 1st round. Does he make in the top half? Probably not. But the Lions, by the way, this is where Witherspoon must be in the conversation.
Yeah, well, I was going to say
his play style fits the head coach's personality.
I was just about to say you can accuse me of overthinking it, but I'm not going to mock Christian Gonzalez to the Lions. I'm going to mock Devon Witherspoon to the Lions based on everything that we just spoke about as far as marrying the identity of this coach and this franchise now with the prospect and what we know about him. So Devon Witherspoon, cornerback, Illinois.
And he could play inside a nickel.
He could play inside.
Great pick, and they need all the corners they can get. This is remember Kuda didn't work out under Bob.
And they signed Cam Sutton, right?
Yep, and
yes,
they need
they
a
signed
corner
Cam
opposite
Sutton.
him, right?
No, I thought the Vikings signed Sutton. Who signed Sutton?
No, they signed Sutton.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
All
okay,
right, number 7.
Number 7 brings us to the Las Vegas Raiders. Adam, how would you describe the litany of their needs?
Their line is so bad. I don't know how they get through it. I don't know how Josh Jacobs had the year that he had. Give him credit for that, but they need a right tackle, guard, corners. They can't line up. They're really bad there. Tight end. Remember they traded Waller. They run hybrid defense. They could use like an inside linebacker for their base defense, and then they need D tackles. So to me, this might be where you talk about Gonzalez, because I don't see Skronsky. I don't see there's no right tackle there. Although Paris Johnson, maybe start talking about him here. Can't rule that out, though he's more of a left tackle. But to me, Christian Gonzalez would make the most sense.
What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean their cornerback situation is less than ideal. Duke Shelley's there. Like they they just have backup special teamers. They need to go Christian Gonzalez. That would be my opinion.
All right. I mean, Adam's going to make the pick. It's his turn, but I'm just going to say this, Adam. I think you are not overthinking it, which is a problem. This is the Las Vegas Raiders. This is Mark Davis. This is Glamour and Glitz. Christian Gonzalez just seems like too vanilla of a pick for the Raiders to make. Like I would not shock me at all if this was the Anthony Richardson pick. I'm just giving you my input. I'm going to.
Oh yeah.
It wouldn't shock me at all. I don't think I agree with you guys. I don't think Peter Skronsky, even though they could use him, would be the pick here. Maybe a Lucas Van Ness, because there's a little name recognition. There's a little I could see Mark Davis thinking I got to have that guy. But if your guy's going to be Christian Gonzalez, I will write it down.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Christian Gonzalez, the cornerback from Oregon.
Yep.
All right. That brings us to the 8th overall selection. That would be the Atlanta Falcons, who were quite busy, Adam, this free agency. Do you have a kind of a list in front of you really quickly of all the free agents that they wound up bringing in? Because they probably had to be the busiest team in free agency of all the teams in the NFL, I would think.
Calais Campbell, who's older, David Onyemata, Bud Dupree, Caden Ellis, Lorenzo Carter. Was he with them last year? No, he was with them last year. Excuse me. Jesse Bates was the big one. Jeff Okudah trade.
Right. Bates,
Mike Hughes came up from Detroit. Yep. Mostly on defense. And they brought in Taylor Heineke to back up Ritter. Theoretically, they won't go with a quarterback there. I can never say never. But they do have a whole running back. Tyler Algier did a good job, but he's not explosive at all. And they brought in Mac Hollins at receiver because Arthur Smith loves tall receivers. He was heavily involved in that. Drake London was his guy, as I understand it. Their offensive line is set. They just more or less set. They're not going to go this early. But their early picks pretty much have to be pass rushers. In the worst way, they need pass rushers. It's not even debatable. They have to get pass rusher. Oh, by the way, their other need right behind it is corner. They cut Casey Hayward. They need corners. And Jeff Okudah is on the final year of his deal. So, they need corners, but they have to get pass rushers, period.
So that you mentioned running back. So I feel like at least before Andrew makes the pick, I mean, we do get into potential Bijan Robinson territory here. And this is the coach who coached Derrick Henry as a coordinator in Tennessee. You mentioned edges, but Anderson, Tyree Wilson off the board. So that takes the top 2. And what else did you mention as then? But maybe corner, where there's still some good left. So this is, I feel like if the Falcons aren't going to take a quarterback here, and I don't know why they wouldn't, but it doesn't feel like they're trending in that direction. Where do they go, Andrew?
Well, I think this is a little too high for Deonte Banks, who would be the next corner on my board. I think receiver, I don't think they would go Jackson Smith and Jiba here. Looking at defensive line, I mean, Calais Campbell's near 40. And I know they signed David Onyemata. I think like Adam said, they got to go pass rusher here. I'm going Myles Murphy.
Yep.
Myles Murphy. All right. Interesting. The DN from Clemson. And I got to say, I'm not really happy about your Joey Porter Jr. slander there, saying there's no other good corners left after the ones we've been taken. But I will overlook that. All right. We go on to the Chicago Bears. They pick 9th overall. I get to make this selection for the Bears. Adam, tell us what they need.
Pass rush. Worse than that in the NFL other than Atlanta. DN, D tackle, they can't line up today. They need upgrades on the offensive line, a guard, a center, a tackle. But pass rush is what it's all about here. If you could find anybody, because man, it is their pass rush is dreadful.
Adam, give me.
Yeah.
I know they were very active in free agency at linebacker. I think they signed a
Yeah.
guard, right? Nate. They signed the guy from Tennessee,
Nate
didn't
Davis. Yeah, Nate Davis.
they? Who are
Yeah.
their offensive tackles as we currently sit here today?
Braxton Jones was okay. He was a 5th rounder last year.
Mm-hmm.
And Tevin Jenkins,
Tevin Jenkins.
right, who could play guard or tackle.
Yeah.
But
Did
it's
he have
always
a good
about
year last year, or was
that he
just
rebounded
okay?
well. But you have to understand, and this is the thing I learned about this from Bill Polian. Never pass up an upgrade. If there's an offensive lineman there that's better than these guys, you draft me and worry about it. You just
Well, that's what I'm wrestling with.
Yeah.
Do I go with probably a
veteran.
tackle, not a guard, not Skronsky? Do you go with Paris Wilson here, or do you go with the pass rusher, which, now you're down a few pass rushers, but Lucas Van Ness is on the board. So I got to basically pick between Van Ness, Nolan Smith, which I wouldn't take because he's undersized and this is a big man scheme under Eberflus, or Paris Johnson. I'm going to take Van Ness. I just think that he's got that much
Good
juice.
one.
They need a pass rusher. I think he'll fit that scheme really nicely. He's multiple. So I'm going to take Lucas Van Ness, edge from Iowa, edge / whatever you want to call him.
He'll start. They literally have no pass rushers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's very interesting. Before we move to the Eagles here, it's kind of stunning to me what Chicago did to tie up so much cap in. They run a 43 front, and with Tremaine Edmonds, the highest paid inside linebacker in NFL history, and TJ Edwards, I just don't get it with the money. It makes no sense.
I'm with you. You can throw me in that camp as well. But now that brings us to the moment of reckoning. It's the Philadelphia Eagles picking at number 10. I would put safety among one of their highest needs, but I don't think the Eagles ever think that safety is one of their highest
They
needs.
never do.
We could probably have that same discussion about
30.
inside linebacker and running back. So, Adam, what else would the Eagles potentially be looking at?
So safety, D end, because BG again, how many? He's 35 now. D tackle, outside linebacker, could use one more inside linebacker. TJ Edwards left. Corner for the future. Again, the draft is about the future. They need outside corners. They don't have anyone who could potentially start down the road. And running back, they could use one more guy. But with Van Ness just going here.
Well, before you make I would like Andrew's opinion here on who he thinks really works well for the Eagles at 10 with what's left on the board, knowing their tendencies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's tough because you kind of want to go Bijan Robinson here, right? You want to push all your chips in the middle and take advantage of the window while it's open. Man, I think Skronsky would be really high here. And I also don't think that, like I said, I don't think he projects to be a right tackle. So taking a guard here at 10 wouldn't make a ton of sense. Van Ness is gone. Let's see. Brian Brzee would make some sense here.
Ooh, a little high for a guy that inexperienced, but okay.
With his injury history, it's a lot.
The natural, you could just see his natural athleticism. It sort of jumps off the tape.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you get him in an NFL system, you're going to see him really just thrive. That's a name to consider. Deonte Banks, that's my guy. I think that's still a little too high for him at 10. Maybe, yeah, it's in a tough spot. Maybe receiver, but nothing the Eagles would do would surprise me.
Well, let me ask both of you this, Adam. Any intel on whether one of these two offensive tackles that are highly rated, whether it's Paris Johnson or even the kid from Tennessee, who I think doesn't get enough discussion?
Darryl Wright. Right.
Yes, thank you. Darryl Wright. Can he play guard?
Yeah, he can.
And Paris Johnson did not very well. It always remember this, folks.
Paris Johnson, you said, he did not play guard well. I
know he did 2 years ago. He did in 21. And with tape was not good, but it's always what Geoff Stoutland thinks. If Stoutland thinks he can, now I'll give you a little nugget here. We talked to 2 offensive line coaches last week. Both said that it wasn't so bad that he couldn't. He just needs to work on technique when he plays guard. He was thrown in there because in 2021 they had it might have been Nicholas Petit-Foray, maybe. That sound right?
Yes,
tackle
from Ohio State, right?
Right. So they had the tackle set, and they needed someone to play guard. So it's just it's a process. He's a project at guard somewhat, but as we've learned with Stoutland over the years, he's taken guys who maybe not be great for this position and put in another. Now, the question then moving this forward would be if they went with Paris Johnson at 10. is he a plug and play guy at right guard? Because to me, I don't get the sense that they'd really want to see Cam Jurgens as a starting right guard. Maybe they'll let him compete for it, but he's just not. He's not that strong.
Right.
He's an athlete, but we won't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know that he is a plug and play right guard. I think Skoronski, compared, on the other hand, would be.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Sure.
So, Adam, the moment is here. It's your pick. I don't think we're going to haggle with you too much because we've already admitted this one's a hard one to
Yeah, and we'll have, when we do the live, what are we doing? We're doing a live stream Wednesday night, right?
A live Ask ITB live stream Wednesday night for Patreon, and then a Thursday for everybody. We're doing our.
Yeah. And I may have a completely different player. I don't usually get a better. The high end intel I get is usually the day of the draft or the night before. But since we have to put someone here, ooh, you got me on Van Ness. That's where I was going to go here. I'm looking to see who else would go here.
I tell you, I would personally. I know it's not conventional Eagles, but the Eagles have shown that they will do some unconventional things the last few years. I would probably go with Skoronski here as probably the best of overall.
That's where I'm leaning because he can't. He's not a left. He can't play left. It's like his arms are too short.
Right.
And coaches we spoke with said no, not going to happen. But you could help him learn the right tackle position here. Doesn't have the ideal size, but he definitely has ideal size to play inside. It's not like his arms are 30. They're about 32 and a quarter,
Plus,
I believe.
the Eagles could very easily see this as we've got 2 more years to find our next right tackle. Sure. We can have Skoronski immediately at right guard, and then Jurgens ready to go at center whenever Jason Kelce says goodbye, and then bam, look at that. We got another elite offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
There you go. So we'll go with Skoronski here.
All right. Peter Skoronski. I'm going to say I talked you into that. No, I'm just kidding.
It was either going to be Skoronski or Paris Johnson. It's the higher graded player for both teams is probably going to be Skoronski because he was an elite. Mm-hmm. He was one of the elite players for the draft. Like I know it's strange because he was a left tackle in college, but his tape was so good. Mm-hmm. But remember, the draft is about projection.
Right.
And down the road, the hope is if this would happen, if they would take Skoronski, he would be the right guard. And man, would they be set? I mean, look, right guard as a whole, there's no doubt.
No, I mean, if you have one of the best right guards in football who can play there 10 to 12 years, the Cowboys got one. Who else has a really good right guard?
By the way, Zach Martin was left tackle in college.
Right. Correct. So, all right, cool. That rounds out our top 10, which moves us into sort of the middle of the draft here. At number 11, we have the Tennessee Titans. Andrew DiCecco is going to make this pick. Adam, what do the Titans need? Because I find it, of all their needs you wrote down, you didn't write one that I thought was interesting, but go ahead.
Well, maybe wide receiver, guard, center, outside linebacker. They run a 34, inside linebacker, running back. Mm-hmm. Is quarterback in need? No, but you could. It's always going to be what does Rand Carthon, the new GM, think? Because the quarterbacks could play into the late 30s. We know that. Nothing new. A lot of quarterbacks have done it. So, yeah, I mean, look, Kirk Cousins now is on the back nine, 35, 36 years old. Teams do it. Ryan Tannehill's up there. But again, it's what this guy, Rand Carthon's thinking, so we'll see. But it's wide receiver, guard, center, outside linebacker, inside linebacker, and running back, because Derrick Henry, I'd bet the house he won't be with them at 24.
That is true. Wide receiver is interesting here because this could be the first sign of seeing maybe I always find like the backyard thing. Like I know Jalen Hyatt is not a top 2 wide receiver, but he is a Tennessee guy, and Greg Cosell really, really liked him, and this is a guy in their backyard. But obviously, when you're talking wide receiver here, it could be Jackson Smith and Jigba or Zay Flowers or whoever. But Andrew, what are you thinking?
Well, I want to look at the offensive line. I know they signed Andre Dillard to play left tackle, but the right tackle spot, I think, to me, would fit either Paris Johnson or Broderick Jones from Georgia, who really fits their DNA. Mike Vrabel, in particular, just a nasty player, pro-ready guy. I think I'm going Broderick Jones here at 11.
Titans get an offensive tackle, right? Didn't they lose? Did they let Lewan walk in? No,
well, he might retire. Yeah, they did cut him. You're right. Yeah. And then Nate Davis walked. But the only problem I have with that one is it just when you look at Andre Dillard, it's you're not wanting him to fail. But the thing about Dillard is they could get out of his contract after 1 year and not owe him a dime. So it's about the future, and I was surprised that they signed him. Quite frankly,
yeah.
How much? And I get Derrick Henry may not be with him next year in 23, or 24, excuse me. But this is interesting. I mean, the thing is, they got to build this offensive line. It's been bad for years.
Yeah,
It's
and
bad, yeah.
to your point and why Andrew makes this pick. I mean, if the Dillard thing doesn't work out, but Jones is good, you can move Jones to left tackle the next year or whenever you feel like you need it, and then find a different right tackle instead of finding a left tackle. So that gives them that kind of optionality.
It's got a 1-year structure on its 3-year deal. Andrew Dillard, they can get out, not owe him a dime after the season. It's only $6 million.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually $7 million fully guaranteed at signing. He's got a injury guarantee that rolls over to full guarantee on the 5th day of free agency next year. So it's a one. Now they're going to obviously want to evaluate him, but why not just build a great offensive line and see what happens? And by the way, he can play guard.
There you go.
Right.
No, good, perfect.
So you're going with who is
the
it again?
Titans?
Broderick Jones from Georgia, 6'4", 310.
Right, and they lost their guard to the Bears in free agency. So
Yep.
again, he can fill different roles if need be. All right, so that moves us into number 12. It'll be the Houston Texans picking for the first time. Quick recap. Number 1, Panthers, Bryce Young. Number 2, Texans, Will Anderson. Number 3, Cardinals, we said Tyree Wilson. Number 4, Colts was CJ Stroud. Number 5, Seahawks took Jalen Carter. Number 6, Lions took Devin Witherspoon. Number 7, Raiders took Christian Gonzalez. Number 8, Falcons took Miles Murphy. The Bears with 9th pick take Lucas Van Ness. The Eagles at 10 take Peter Skronsky. And the Titans at 11 take Broderick Jones, the offensive tackle from Georgia. I'll be making the pick for the Houston Texans here. All right, so we mocked Will Anderson to the Texans with the 2nd overall pick. They pick again here. Still need the quarterback. Maybe not as much the edge rusher now. Inside interior rusher, as Adam mentioned, cornerback, wide, as Adam said, they could really go anywhere from here. But it feels like at this point, if only 2 quarterbacks are off the board and they have their choice between Levis and Anthony Richardson, they're probably going to take one of those guys. You guys agree?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
They don't have a quarterback. They have to.
They don't have a quarterback. So the question is, do they go with the most tantalizing quarterback prospect that I've seen in a long
That's what
time?
I did in my mock for ProFootballNetwork.com.
Did you?
That's what I put it in, yeah.
That's where I was leaning. That's where I was leaning. I think that this franchise is looking to really turn some heads after being in the doldrums and after going through what they went through with Deshaun Watson. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to say Anthony Richardson is the pick here, the quarterback from Florida. Right. They do have a great left tackle, or a very good left tackle in Laramie Tunsil, who they gave an extension to. So they have protection for him. They added to their defense with Will Anderson. So Anthony Richardson from Florida becomes their next franchise quarterback and their pick. Yep. And by the way, they still have Davis Mills under contract. If they feel like Richardson needs a half a year to develop another year, they can go with Mills for a year while they develop Anthony Richardson. That's a little bit of their ability there. All right, up next at 13th overall will be the New York Jets. And Adam, tell us what the Jets need.
This is another one which will be very quick. Quarterback, offensive tackle, D tackle, center, and safety. There's no one else left. They're not taking a quarterback at 13. They'll get Aaron Rodgers one way or the other. And Joe Douglas had an awesome draft last year, but he missed on Mekhi Becton. Mm-hmm. And to me, you don't worry about that. You missed on it. You take the best player, and it's Paris Johnson here. This card should be turned in 20 seconds. Mm-hmm. And there you go. You're starting to build that offensive line. They've not had a good offensive line in years, and this is one way to do it.
Yeah. Now, if Mekhi Becton, just curious, comes back and looks great,
I'm told he looks good, but who cares?
Does he play right tackle then, or do they just put Mekhi at right tackle?
They could try, but they cannot. Joe cannot rely on this kid. He's
exactly.
Listen to these. This is unbelievably pathetic. How much time? I actually wrote this. This is crazy. So he's only played 15 games in his career.
Amazing. That
can't happen. Joe's got to swallow his pride. It didn't work. Okay. And go with the best player here. Again, if this pick takes more than 20 seconds for them, I don't know what they're doing. This is about as easy as it gets. This is like the layup of the year.
All right. Nice. Sounds good. All right. Next pick is 14th. It's the New England Patriots. Adam, what are their needs?
So they've lost some corners. They could use a right tackle, wide receiver, tight end. Remember, they got rid of Jonathan Smith. Wow, that was one of the worst contracts in NFL history. Mm-hmm. They could use a guard. To me here, guys, the best player on the board is Joey Porter Jr.
And that's exactly where I'm going. When you look at the Jonathan Jones and Jack Jones, that's just not good enough. I think Joey Porter is a better fit than the other player that I really like, who I mentioned, who I think is going to go a few picks later. So I'm going Joey Porter Jr.
All right, now I'm happy again. Joey Porter Jr., cornerback, Penn State, goes 14th, and that makes a lot of sense because we know the Patriots value the cornerback position as much as anybody, if not more, in the NFL. That brings us to the 15th overall pick. It's the Green Bay Packers. It's a new era. Aaron Rodgers isn't returning. They do have their quarterback, Jordan Love, ready to take the reins. Adam, what else do they need?
They need a tight end in the worst way. Right now, Josiah DeGuara would be their starting tight end. They need a receiver. They lost one to the Jets, Alan Lazard, a safety, and an outside linebacker. They're getting a little bit older there, but to me, this is where the tight end run could start at 50.
Yeah, so I was thinking either tight end or Jackson Smith and Jigba here.
That'd be a great one. Yeah.
You know, the Packers would shock me if they took a tight end this high. It just doesn't seem like a Packers thing to do. I don't know the whole Brian Gutekunst thing. Like, he's not been the GM for 30 years, like Ron Wolf, so I don't know the tendencies well. But they also haven't taken a first round wide receiver in a long time.
Yeah.
But like, where else do they go here?
DeGuara is more of an H-back, so
Yep.
Dalton Kincaid would be an intriguing pick here. You got Jackson Smith and maybe Jordan Addison from USC, who I like a ton. I know you do too, Adam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, they don't do receivers in the first round. To me, it would be Dalton Kincaid.
All right. You guys selling me on it. Dalton Kincaid, the all-around everything tight end Utah,
He's an athlete.
Going to the Packers at 15th overall.
And give Jordan Love some pass targets, man. They need it. Robert Tonyan, he tore his ACL a couple years ago. He's never the same. Nobody. Watson, Dobbs. They need a third and fourth receiver, but they don't have a move tight end. And here you go, Dalton Kincaid.
All right, brings us to 16th overall. It's the Washington Commanders. First, we're going to pause real quick to hear from some sponsors. All right, we are up to the Washington Commanders, 16th overall. Adam, what do they need?
Guard, DN, corner. They could use a tackle, a safety, an outside linebacker. To me, guys, Ron Rivera, he's drafted pretty well in defense, though. Bryce, the D lineman, they have to make it Chase Young, right? It has not worked out. They have 4 defensive linemen on their defense, 4 first rounders, right?
Yeah.
Sweat, Payne, Allen, Young. Allen and Payne got extensions. Sweat is not, and Young is not. In fact, Young's got his 5th-year option due after the draft. So it's something you can look at. Corner to me is another need for them. Safety, they're okay. They could use one more guy because they do that later. But corner to me, guys, would be the way to go here. They claim Cam Dantzler doesn't run very well. It was tall. St. Juice is a nice tall corner. Kendall Fuller's getting up there.
Yeah,
they could use another corner. They could use an upgrade.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're looking at, Andrew's guy, Deonte Banks, maybe Brian Branch from Alabama. But I tell you, I'll just add this in and then let Adam, you make the picks. I'll let you make it unless Andrew's got something else. But I think this is prime Bijan Robinson territory. I think the one thing we know about what's his face, Ron Rivera, is that he loves to run the football. And he's got Sam Howell right now as number 1 quarterback. And I would want to run the ball a lot.
He will. They love Brian Robinson. He recovered from the gunshot wounds pretty well.
Yeah, but he ain't Bijan Robinson.
I get it, but I don't see it. For a team that has, I just don't see it. I hear you with Ron Rivera. He's another running back truther, running game truther. Doesn't want the quarterback to be a factor. I get it. That's why Howell's the projected starter. Although Brissett could beat him out. But to me, I'm going with the best player on the board here, and on my board I have Deonte Banks. Mozzie Smith, no, too early for him. Well, it's not that early, but he might go a little later. Broderick Jones went already. I would have taken him here to replace Charles Leno. So I'm going to go with Deonte Banks, a local product out of University of Maryland, the best player on the board, and an upgrade at corner.
Good point on the backyard pick there, University of Maryland. All right, that brings us to the Pittsburgh Steelers picking 17th overall. Andrew's going to make the pick. Adam's first going to tell us what the Steelers need besides a better offensive philosophy.
Corner. D tackle, left tackle, inside linebacker, outside linebacker.
Yeah, I think, man, this would be if Joey Porter Jr. doesn't go to the Patriots, like our mock draft suggests, this would be like almost a match made in heaven, especially since his dad played linebacker there and he is a local kid at Penn State. But what do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I had Banks here because I like his physicality, and I think that really he reminds me of more of a throwback player. So I had Porter Jr. with the Patriots, and I had Banks as a good fit with the Steelers. But Adam mentioned outside linebacker. You have to start having that discussion about BJ Ojulari from LSU. He sort of fits that mold as a pass. He doesn't give you much in run defense, but he does rush the passer quite a bit. I think I'm going BJ Ojulari.
Now Alex Highsmith, we should mention, who's on the final of his rookie deal. This pick would come down. I like the pick, but the only thing is if they're going to extend Alex Highsmith's contract, I don't know how much of a need that would be, because it is a need now with him not signed for the future, and they don't have any depth really. Not a bad pick, kind of like this one, but safety, I don't think they're okay there opposite Fitzpatrick. They brought in.
I was thinking Brian Branch, but I like you said, I think that they're okay there.
KZ they like, right, and they eventually got to get better at D tackle. That's where Mozzie Smith might be in the conversation.
And the Steelers, that's what I would say, Adam. The Steelers, one of those franchises, not completely predictable, but you know what they go for in the first round. It's usually a pass rusher, an offensive lineman, a quarterback if need be. It's not usually any other. They've done corner, I think, once in the last 16 or 17 years. So. I think the Ojulari pick, an edge rusher pick would make sense, or a Mozzie Smith there from Michigan would also make a lot of sense. Because didn't they lose? I can't remember the guy who kind of retired last year on them, sort of suddenly in training camp. Stephon Tuitt?
Oh, Stephon Tuitt. Yeah, good call. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would, we'll give Ojulari, like you said, but I would watch for a Mozzie Smith here.
Yep.
All right. That brings us, brings us over to 18th, the Detroit Lions. They picked earlier in the round. Who did we have for them take? I think we had them taking Devin Witherspoon. Yes, the cornerback out of Illinois. We had them taking that 6 overall. So now that they got their corner taken, where do they go here, Adam, as far as positional needs?
D tackle is the biggest need by far. Corner with trading Okudah, but we just mentioned Witherspoon, so they don't have to do it here. Tight end, remember they had the interdivisional trade, which rarely happens. Traded Hawkinson, which was a stunner when it happened, outside linebacker and safety. But I would give him, if it's my pick, I'd give him Mozzie Smith. To me, he's a major need pick, and he's also for the future. And now, I don't see anyone I'm looking at.
Well, I just think like with Ali McNeil there playing that nose, you're going to have to play Mozzie around a little bit, and neither of them are great pass rushers.
Right, I agree.
I love the talent and scheme match to the player. I just wonder a little bit about, can they make it all work that way, or is this a chance to go get Branch at safety there in that defense? I feel like they can go a couple of different ways in this direction.
Well, they lost the kid who was a second rounder in 21, Nzeruki. He's a D tackle. He has a significant injury from last season. They don't know if he'll be able to play again.
Yeah.
So it's McNeil, and they don't have any. The rest are backups. That's why I put him here.
Mozzie. Yeah, you know what? I can just see Dan Campbell falling in love with Mozzie Smith. I really can, because he's just that kind of a guy. Yeah. So they'll make it work. Mozzie Smith, defensive tackle, Michigan, will go 18th overall to the Detroit Lions. Brings us to 19th overall, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Caplan's going to make the pick first. He's going to tell us what the Buccaneers need.
All right, so they need a quarterback for the future. We know that. They have Kyle Trask, and they've got Baker Mayfield to compete for it. They lost their left tackle. They cut him, Smith, and they might play worse at right tackle, left tackle. They're not sure yet. Inside linebacker, safety, corner. They lost Sean Murphy-Bunting, and they could use another pass rusher and outside linebacker. To me, I'm going to go Will Levis here because simply this is a perfect situation for him. Let him learn year one. He doesn't have to play, and let him get him back on track. It was a struggling year for him. There's some mitigating circumstances. The OC Scangarello was canned late in the season. He had a bad year. There's a drop-off year. He was really good in 21. He really struggled last season. Some inexplicable throws where you go, what are you doing? But the bottom line is, this is a guy, this is a good developmental quarterback, and get him in your system, let him learn, and then down the road, because he's got a lot of gifts. He's very talented, but he's got to get himself together.
All right. I like it, though. Will Levis, quarterback, Kentucky, goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, brings us to 20th overall, the Seattle Seahawks. Andrew, you'll make this pick. Adam, what do the Seahawks need? Because remember, they did take in our mock draft, they took Jalen Carter 5th overall. So that solidified one of their needs. What else they got?
They need a center, an outside linebacker, inside linebacker, and a receiver. I definitely don't see a receiver here, but I would just tell you that they've got Nwosu, who is great for them. Uchenna Nwosu coming over from the Chargers, but he's on the last year of his deal. It hasn't quite worked out yet with Darrell Taylor as a second rounder from 2020. So outside linebacker is a need.
Outside linebacker could be a need. Okay. I mean, this is, I still, again, I'm going to say this, we're
Center's
in
interesting.
Bijan
Center's
Robinson here for a coach who loves to run.
No
That's how
way.
he's analyzing.
Kenneth
They have
Walker.
Kenneth
Oh,
Walker.
I'm sorry. I forgot. They have Kenneth. My apologies.
John Michael Schmitz, the center from
That's the
Minnesota,
guy. That's the guy.
is who I'm going with here.
Love it. Love it. JMS.
He is the favorite of a bunch of O-line coaches we've talked to. That's
Absolutely.
the best pick. They brought in from Detroit Evan Brown, who's sort of a backup guard center.
Mm-hmm.
They've had Joey Hunt there for a little bit, who's a backup. But no, that's kind of like my favorite pick of the draft, to be honest with you, out of this mock.
All right, as we will move on to now the 21st. I'm going to be making the pick for the Chargers, and Adam, this will be the first pick for the Chargers in the first round. What do they need?
Corner, because they've got a guy come off of a major injury. They don't know when he'll be ready, and that is that
right.
is,
and that's not. Although Asante Samuel Jr. was a nice corner for them, but yeah, they probably
it's J.C. Jackson. Yeah,
J.C.
Jackson suffered a torn patella. That's worse than an ACL. They don't know when they're going to have him.
Right.
But Asante Samuel's on a 3rd year of his deal, and Mike Davis is getting up there. Good player though. Good player.
Mm-hmm.
Good player development. He's now 28. They could use another corner. Could always use another pass rusher like Nolan Smith.
Yes, and now we do know that the coach prefers size, right? I mean, he likes taller, 100%. Longer guys.
Yep.
Makes me wonder if this is a good spot for Cam Smith, who's a 6'1" corner. Forbes doesn't have a lot of size, and DJ Turner is a short guy as well. The kid from Georgia, Ringo, he's 6'2".
I think that might be a little early for Ringo.
I was just about to say, I'm not sure he goes in the first round. And listen, I mean, Eckler wants out. Running back certainly could use one. I think Bijan Robinson and the whole LA thing could be a pretty interesting subplot here.
I'm told they're looking for receivers with speed. Jalen Hyatt,
Jackson Smith and Jigba has speed.
Oh, how's he still around?
Jay Flowers. The only thing is they have Mike Williams, they have Keenan Allen, they have Palmer, who gave him speed. Guyton, not Palmer, I mean Guyton, right? Do they have both?
Jalen Guyton.
Yeah, Jalen Guyton came back. He's just a backup, but Keenan Allen.
Who's the guy that gave him the speed element last year? The third guy.
Well, Josh Palmer's, he doesn't run fast, but he's explosive.
Right. He makes the plays downfield.
Keenan Allen missed a ton of time last year. He didn't play a lot because of a hamstring problem.
Yeah.
31, excuse me. And then Mike Williams is a really good player, but he's got a big injury history. So receivers definitely need. It's not a major need, but it's on the need.
Well, I'm polling you here. Do you guys think Bijan Robinson is not the right fit here for the Chargers?
I love it.
That's where I'm leaning.
I have him as a need because they don't.
It's a need.
Yep, Eckler is on the last year of his deal. They're not going to pay him. This is sort of what teams do. When they see an opportunity, they go, "Okay, we're going to replace you with this guy." I feel bad for Eckler. What a great story development, but they don't want to. They don't want to pay him.
Yeah,
tight end is a sneaky need too. Gerald Everett, I think, has got 1 year left.
Yep.
Yeah,
and he doesn't give you much as a blocker. So
agree.
Yeah, I'm looking at the economics of this. They have to pay Herbert, I think, this offseason, and then they're not going to be able to pay Eckler. That we know that he's talked about being out. So Bijan Robinson is going to be the pick then. Cheap labor for the next 3 to 5 years for them.
Feel bad for Eckler with this one, but it's a great pick.
It really is. Absolutely. That's the way the business works.
Yep.
All right. Let us go to the Baltimore Ravens, who they own this thing year after year after year. Last year, they had 2 first-round picks. They took Kyle Hamilton at safety and Tyler Lindenbaum, their center. So they go to number 22. Andrew DiCecco's Caplan's going to make the pick first. Tell us what they need.
Wide receiver corner. Marcus Peters is unsigned. It definitely is a need. Humphrey's the only one they really got a good start. Receiver. And they still need help there. Inside, they need interior offensive lineman, a running back for sure, and D tackle.
We all know they're going to run to the podium and take a wide receiver here, right?
They have to take Smith and Jigba. He's the best player. I love Jay Flowers, but Smith and Jigba, he's going here because, again, like you just said, this is just like running the podium. Don't overthink it. I get the last year's tape wasn't good because of the hamstring. All the coaches we spoke with are just in love with this kid, his competitiveness and his ability to separate. It passed the Cosell test. We're going here.
There you go. All right, Minnesota Vikings. They are up next. They're 23rd overall. Andrew DiCecco is going to make the pick. We had reported way back in the early offseason the Vikings really wanted to address their secondary if they could in the offseason. I think they wound up signing a corner.
Byron Murphy. Yep.
Murphy, yes.
They're not done yet. They're definitely not done. Right now it's Andrew Booth who didn't do the job last year. Joe Juan Williams comes over he's a backup, comes over from the Pats. Caleb Evans they kind of like, but yeah, they could use another corner, no doubt about it, if there's one there.
Yeah, well, there are a couple there. It just depends on whether or not they want to take one 23rd overall over some of the other positions that they've got. What do you see, Adam?
I mean, Emmanuel Forbes would make some sense. That's what I was thinking. But I think I might go Nolan Smith. I think that'd be great value here.
Now, is he an edge rusher for them?
Yes,
they run a 34.
That's perfect then.
Doesn't have the ideal length in terms of or size. Like what he's 238, maybe 240, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Daniil Hunter had a lot of injuries. He had the rarity. He was on IR twice in 21, in 20. Good player. What a great draftee he was by Rick Spielman, our friend. But he's up there. And then on the other side is Marcus Davenport, who really is more of a 43 end. You have DJ Wanhams and Darius Smith, who supposedly wants a new deal. So I just like the value here. You can't have enough pass rush. This is a great pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Nolan Smith to the Vikings at 23rd brings us to the Jacksonville Jaguars at 24th overall. What are some of their needs?
Corner. Remember they cut Shaq Griffin.
Yes.
Guard, tackle. They lost one to the Chiefs. Outside linebacker and D tackle. Remember one thing when you're here. Trent Baalke, the GM, loves size at corner. He wants long arms.
He does. Now, here's what's interesting, because Emmanuel Forbes is long-armed. He does have good long arm size, I believe, for the position. It's just that he weighs 165 pounds.
Right.
I have a real tough time seeing Baalke liking that. Where are they at with their offensive tackle situation, Adam?
Not great. They've got Cam Robinson, who could be cut after the season. They would not owe him anything. And Walker Little, who's a left tackle at Stanford, has not played a lot of football because he was hurt in college. And I think he opted out for COVID, but they like him. He's more of a power. He probably would play right tackle.
Yep.
To me, it's either got to be corner or tackle, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, Darnell Wright makes an awful lot of sense here.
That's my guy. That's what I was thinking right here. I'm actually sort of surprised he's still on the board at this point. So Darnell Wright,
15 to 25.
Yeah, that's true. Darnell Wright, offensive tackle, Tennessee, is going to be the pick, because I just can't see them going with Forbes at that size. So that'll be the 24th pick in the draft. We're going to pause real quick to tell you about our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience of their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. And we'll also hear from our friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you go out there to Sky Motor Cars in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam just sent you. You will get a great deal. All right, we are up to, and we're closing out this thing, 25th overall. It's the New York Giants. They made the playoffs after being the losingest franchise over the last 5 years going into 2022. Adam, what do the Giants need?
Wide receiver, corner, center, outside linebacker, interior, offensive line, and safety. Lost Julian Love to me. There's some good receivers here.
There are some good receivers. And this would be, whose pick is it? This is your pick, Adam, by the way. Is there any other? I almost look at this and see, with all the receivers on the board, the Giants would be idiotic to try to go anywhere else. I mean, they really badly need speed at the receiver.
Jordan Addison, a favorite receiver coaches I spoke with. We're going to go with Jordan Addison here, receiver out of USC. I know he's not the most physical guy, but he does track the ball well. He's explosive. Guys love his competitiveness. And to me, he starts day one on the outside, and he does track the ball. For a guy who's slight of build, I think he might be under 180. He's tracking pretty well.
Man won the Blitnikoff 2 years ago when he was with Pitt and Kenny Pickett. Then he went to USC. All right, 26 overall is Our great friends in Texas, we call them the Dallas Cowboys. Andrew
Cowgirls.
DiCecco will be making the pick. What do the Cowboys need, Adam?
Tight end. They lost Dalton Schultz. Running back to complement Tony Pollard, who's coming off a major injury. Guard and corner. I say corner because after the season they could lose a lot of them. They have a lot of them, but it's more of a future pick. To me, a tight end makes a lot of sense here.
Tight end makes sense. Running back could make sense with well, I mean, Tony Pollard's going to be their guy, but again, he's never been shown to be a volume
big back.
guy.
Yes, correct.
Bijan just seems like a Dallas pick, but I'm going to go tight end Michael Mayer here.
Yeah, Bijan's gone
nice
already.
job.
Yeah.
Mike Mayer, yes. Mike,
he'll start day
end.
one. This
all of a
month.
sudden, the university just escaped my mind. He went to
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, right? Excellent.
Yep.
All right, that will take us to the Buffalo Bills at 27th overall. What are some of their needs, Adam?
Middle linebacker, they lost Edmonds to the Bears. DN, remember their pass rush is not very good in the playoffs without Von Miller come back to an ACL. They need help there. Receiver, they could use depth. They need someone who could run. I know they're looking for that. Safety, they need to they got two older guys in their 30s and D tackle. So it's kind of like whatever you want to do.
I wonder how they feel about a Drew Sanders or a Jack Campbell here. Maybe a little early for Campbell, but Drew Sanders, linebacker. Have they ever taken a linebacker in the first round under McDermott and
No,
No, I don't think they have. The end.
They need a running back in a big way.
They do. Andrew, I was thinking Jahmyr Gibbs here, but they need more of a bruiser than a Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
Not that Jahmyr Gibbs isn't a good player, but I feel like they need someone to sort of complement Josh Allen's running, right? Like a fourth quarter running back.
Damian Harris will do that just this season. He's on a 1-year deal. He'll complement Cook. But for the future, again, it's past the season. Remember, the draft is always about past the season.
Yeah.
So, and Nyheim Hines is also there's a change up with Cook. This is a tough one. They have needs. It's like, who's the best player on the board here?
Yeah, I got my eyes on Will McDonald from Iowa State. Yep. I think that he would be a good edge there.
A great pick.
A wide receiver would be a pretty good pick.
Got to be able to run. They want someone who could fly.
Brian Branch to replace some of their aging safeties.
That'd be a great one. Yep.
You know what? I do think Brian Branch makes more sense than even Will McDonald here. Yeah, I'm going to go Brian Branch from Alabama.
Yeah.
All right. That will bring us to the Cincinnati Bengals, 28th overall. Before we get to the Bengals, I want to remind everybody that it's Ocean Casino Resort's 5th birthday this summer, and they can't wait to celebrate with you. Join Ocean Casino for exciting promotions and sweepstakes, headline entertainment, the best day life and nightlife lineup in AC, the debut of the birthday bar, exclusive local collabs and partnerships, commemorative 5th birthday merchandise, and so much more. Don't miss stunning fireworks and unique events all summer long. Ocean Rewards members will enjoy over $5 million in gifts and prizes, so be sure to sign up for an Ocean Rewards card to get in on the fun next time you visit them at Ocean Casino Resort. All right, the Cincinnati Bengals are up next, 28th overall, and Caplan, you are making the pick. First, tell us what they need.
Running back for sure. Joe Mixon, his future is clouded, even if he's back. His future is definitely not great for past the season. Corner is a need. Eli Apple's up. Tight end is a need. They tried to resign. Hayden Hurst at the last minute, and it didn't work. They don't have a starting tight end. They need a move guy, and that's about. I'm just trying to think. Safety and wide receiver. They have wide receiver depth issue and a safety issue.
Yeah.
They lost their safety to the Falcons. So to me, I don't see. I kind
of love Jahmyr Gibbs here for them as a running back who can do a lot of things in that offense.
But Luke Musgrave.
Musgrave, right? That's who I have in my mock at ProFootballNetwork.com. Here's why. I took him over. Gibbs is probably not going to be a high volume carry guy, and that's probably what I know that they might run a spread. I mean, they run a spread.
Yeah,
but they also need a tight end. And he's an all-around tight end. It makes a ton of sense.
Sure.
Gibbs from a spread offense, yes, but I don't know how much volume he could handle. They need volume in the run game. When they run it, they need a guy who could handle a lot of carries.
All right. Oregon State tight end Luke Musgrave goes 28th overall to the Cincinnati Bengals. Up next is the New Orleans Saints. They finally pick. They got this 29th pick through a variety of different trades, Niners through Miami through Denver. Adam, what do the Saints need?
DN, Marcus Davenport gone. Cam Jordan turned 34 in July. My goodness gracious. D tackle, they lost Onyemata. Receiver, you never know about Michael Thomas ever staying healthy. Running back for the future and safety for the future. This is where the conversation should start with Will McDonald.
I like that. Will McDonald. Andrew, anybody that pops into your head?
Zay Flowers, but I think I'm going to go Mozzie Smith here.
Ooh,
I really
nope,
like.
We gave him to the Lions. Remember, they had that second.
Did we?
Yes,
okay.
we did.
Well, I think then I'm going to go Will McDonald.
All right.
What do you like about him?
Well, I mean, I like his speed off the edge. He's a little bit undersized, but I think that he can fit in a variety of schemes, like his hand usage. I think he has some upside. So I think he'll thrive there. I don't know that he's set to play right away. I don't know that he can be an early player, early contributor, but you like his upside.
All right. So that brings us to 30th overall. It's another money pick because it's the Philadelphia Eagles. They did pick once overall. We had them taking Peter Skronsky, 10th overall, the guard, Adam. So what are some of the other needs we talked about again?
I know they won't do it, but safety, D tackle, there's all about the future. DN, another outside linebacker, inside linebacker, corner, which we mentioned earlier. So it's a future need, a running back. So this is an interesting pick here. I know the fans think they're going to move out, and I would agree with most of those guys, one way or the other, whether it's at 10 or 30. 30 makes a lot more sense because generally no team has a first round grade on any of these players at 30. It's next to impossible to have that. So to me, this is where the trading out starts. But since we don't do that here, it's just taking the best player available at these positions.
So I'll ask you guys for your opinion. My lean here is Kalijah Cansey because even though it's a first round, it's the 30th overall. So you're probably talking about guys with second round grades on them at this point. So the whole, does Kalijah Cansey play 3 days? It may not matter as much because I don't know if anybody left on the D line is definitely a 3 down player, but he's got explosion. He's got what the Eagles look for in interior defensive linemen, and it just seems like a really, really good fit. We know they've looked at him a lot in the offseason here. So unless there are objections, I go with Kalijah Cansey here.
I would consider Brian Brzee as well.
Brian Brzee, noted that is someone to be considered. All right. Kalijah Cansey out of Pitt, DT, it is. And it brings us to 31st overall. The Kansas City Chiefs. I forgot, by the way, that this is a 31 pick draft, not a 32. Who lost their pick? The Dolphins.
Yeah, Dolphins forfeited due to a violation of the integrity of the game policy.
All you lose is the first round. You violated the integrity of the game. Pete Rose got a lifetime ban from baseball.
Well, they actually got nailed with a lot of money, and it was a Tom Brady fiasco. But anyway, it's 31 last pick.
Yep.
The Chiefs need DN, D tackle, receiver, right tackle, and running back.
It's an interesting set of needs for them, Super Bowl champions. What are your thoughts? Where do they go?
Well, Frank Clark was cut, so they need a DN.
All right, and you're making the pick. So who's the DN?
Oh, I know the fans didn't. So the fans who saw my mock at Pro Football Network, it was actually one of the most positive mocks I got, and I didn't know how to receive that because usually I get a lot of hate. But this is the one where they're like, no, we don't want this guy. I'm like, but why though? Why don't you want this guy? I should mention he was invited to the draft, surprisingly. So the league, they don't do that unless they think you have a chance to be a first round pick. So, but again, it's a need for the future. And now Mike Dana, who they love, but he's a sub package rusher. Charles Menahu's he's on a 2-year deal with a 1-year structure. Now, this is where this might be a heavy discussion with Gibbs, the running back from Alabama or White. It's probably going to be an interesting discussion. Like, is running back a need for them? Not really. Like, not this season, but past this season. Clyde Edwards-Helaire might not be there after this season. So, I've got a Keon White, the DN from Georgia Tech.
Okay.
They transfer from Old Dominion, I believe, but this is a real look at Gibbs, the running back.
I like it. I would also throw a name in there that Andrew has mentioned on his Eagles mock drafts from Kansas State, the Felix Anadike-Uzomah.
You got it.
Yeah, I would keep an eye on him for the Chiefs as well as an edge rusher.
Okay, good.
All right, fellas, that's been great. It's been awesome. Again, we'll be back on our pre-draft show, 6 to 7:30 on all Inside the Birds platforms. Myself, Adam, Greg Cosell will be a part of with us, and Andrew, I know we're going to get you involved with our draft coverage as well. So everybody, make sure you're reading his stuff on InsideTheBirds.com. And next time you hear from us is finally the moment. So that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. For Andrew DiCecco and Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher. You've been listening to Inside the Birds. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.